Elena Lawrence had always been driven. From the time she was a child, she had been taught that success was measured by the size of your paycheck and the prestige of your title. Her parents, who had sacrificed everything to give her a chance at a better life, had ingrained in her the belief that hard work led to rewards, and the only way to truly make it in this world was to climb the corporate ladder with a singular focus. Now, at 34, Elena had reached the pinnacle of what she had been taught to strive for. She was a senior executive at one of the largest financial firms in the city. Her office was high up in a sleek glass tower that overlooked the bustling streets below. The view was impressive, but it no longer gave her the satisfaction it once did. Every morning, she drove her luxury car to work, her expensive suit perfectly tailored to fit her perfectly curated life. She was a success by every conventional measure. But something was missing. It started with the feeling that crept in on her lunch breaks, sitting alone in her office, scrolling through emails, her mind distant from the spreadsheets she was supposed to be analyzing. Elena found herself gazing out the window at the people walking along the streets below. They were real people, people who didn't have board meetings, stock options, or tight deadlines. Their lives seemed so simple. But they were also full of something that she couldn't quite grasp. Joy? Purpose? Connection? Every achievement she had attained felt hollow, a notch on her belt that, when she looked at it, didn't seem to carry the weight of accomplishment she had expected. The promotions, the praise, the glossy awards, none of it filled the growing emptiness inside her. She had everything, but nothing at all. One Friday afternoon, Elena was rushing through her emails, preparing for a presentation to the board when she received a text from her younger sister, Jessica. "Hey, I've been thinking. We should take a trip together, just the two of us. Somewhere quiet. Maybe a cabin in the mountains? I miss spending time with you." Elena glanced at the text and, for the first time in a long time, felt a pang of something deep in her chest, guilt. She hadn't seen Jessica in months. She hadn't even been present during their last family dinner, always too busy with work. A sense of longing overtook her. She missed those simpler moments. The days before her career had swallowed her whole. A weekend away from the chaos, in nature, with someone who knew her before the job titles, before the demands of the corporate world. But her phone buzzed again, another urgent email from her boss. The mountain retreat would have to wait. Again. The rational part of her brain told her she couldn't afford to take a break. She had a reputation to uphold. Careers like hers didn't just happen, they were built through sacrifice. Yet, as the days passed, Elena found herself becoming increasingly detached from the daily grind. The endless meetings, the presentations, the strategic decisions, all of it felt increasingly irrelevant. She had been living in a bubble of success, but it was one that had slowly suffocated her passion. Her life had become a series of checkboxes, career goals, financial goals, social status. But what about her personal dreams? What about the things that had once excited her before she had been swept up in the need to prove herself? One evening, after another long day at the office, Elena sat alone in her apartment. The city lights outside twinkled in the distance, but inside, everything felt dark. Her apartment was immaculate, too immaculate. She had decorated it for show, but it wasn't a home. She wandered around, looking at the pristine furniture, the untouched bookshelves, and the empty corners. She felt like an intruder in her own life. It was then that she decided something had to change. The next morning, she sent an email to her boss, requesting a sabbatical. The words felt foreign as she typed them, so unlike the driven, ambitious Elena everyone knew. But as she hit send, something inside her shifted. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she knew she couldn't keep going down the path she had been on. Elena's sabbatical was approved with some surprise but also encouragement from her superiors. "You've earned it," her boss had said. But Elena was unsure whether it was a blessing or a final acknowledgement that she had become a machine, someone who had run on autopilot for too long. She wasn't sure if the decision to take time off was brave or reckless, but she didn't care. She needed to find herself again. She called Jessica the next day. "I'm doing it. I'm taking the trip," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "Really?" Jessica responded, her voice filled with relief. "I'm so glad, Elena. I've missed you." The following weekend, Elena and Jessica drove up into the mountains, to a cozy cabin tucked away in the woods. For the first time in years, Elena left her phone behind and immersed herself in the silence of nature. The only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind and the crackling of a fire in the hearth. They spent the weekend hiking, talking about old memories, and even playing board games by candlelight. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. And slowly, Elena began to feel something that she hadn't felt in years: connection. With herself. With her sister. With the world around her. On the third day, as they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains, Elena realized something. She didn't need to climb any higher on the corporate ladder. She didn't need to keep sacrificing her happiness for success. She needed to find a way to live in harmony with her values, not just her ambitions. When she returned to the city, Elena didn't jump back into her old routine. Instead, she started exploring different avenues. She took yoga classes, something she had always wanted to try. She spent more time volunteering at a local charity, helping people who had fallen on hard times, and found joy in those small, meaningful interactions. She took time to reconnect with old friends, enjoying conversations that had nothing to do with work. And, most importantly, she began to understand the true meaning of success. It wasn't about titles or wealth. It wasn't about power or status. It was about living authentically, embracing the things that truly brought her joy, and building relationships that nourished her soul. The transition wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when she questioned whether she was making the right choice. There were people who didn't understand her decision to step back from the corporate world, who told her she was throwing away everything she had worked for. But Elena no longer felt trapped by those expectations. She knew that the real success was in finding balance, the balance between work, passion, and purpose. Elena didn't completely abandon her career. She still worked part-time as a consultant for the firm, but she no longer let it define her. She found new meaning in her life, one that was no longer dictated by external markers of success but by internal fulfillment. In the end, Elena realized that stepping away from the grind wasn't about rejecting success. It was about redefining it. And as she looked out over the city from her apartment that evening, she realized she was finally, truly, at peace.